And we believe that it's a powerful book to show how God used Jonah to reach that wicked, evil city. And doesn't matter how wicked a city is, God still wants to reach it. Doesn't matter how bad a city is, doesn't matter how the crime rate is high, God still wants to save. God is in the saving business, the healing business, the blessing business, the deliverance business. Doesn't matter how bad it looks. If we look to God, God can turn things around. So in Jonah, the book of Jonah, some things that as I was reviewing this week for today, some things again stood out in the book of Jonah. Only 4 chapters. Chapter 2 also is very short, just 10 verses. And chapter 4 has 11 verses. Chapter 3 has 10 verses also. But some things stood out. I'm sorry, chapter 2 has 10 verses, yes. Some things stood out in Jonah. Number one is this. Jonah, we find Jonah running from God. In the book of Jonah, he's running from God. At some point, especially in chapter 2, we find Jonah running to God. Why is he running to God? Why was he running to God? Because, of course, he was now trapped between a rock and a hard place. So we find him running from God, running to God, running with God, and of course, he was running against God. So, but we want to find ourselves in 2 of these places, running to God and running with God. Never against God, never from God. Very important. We want to run to God and we want to run with God. So let's pick it up, Jonah chapter 2. We did some explanation last time, but we're going to pick it up again at verse 2. Keep your eyes on the camera again. Jonah chapter 2, verse 1. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the fish's belly. Now, I just can't get past that word, the first word in chapter 2. The first word is then. Then Jonah prayed. Then is a big word here. Then implies there's a reason why something is happening. There is a reason why Jonah is now praying. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the fish's belly. So the reason why Jonah is praying here is because he was now in the fish's belly. Sometimes most people pray only at times when their back is against the wall. Never wait until your back is against the wall for you to pray. Always pray before. Now, you can't go to the bank tomorrow morning and ask the bank to give you some money if you don't have money in your checking or your savings account. So that means you have to have been putting money in your checking and your savings for you to go to the bank and have the authority to say you are demanding money. So it is good for us to pray before, so we have some kind of prayers up in heaven bottled up, right? Now hear this carefully. Every time, when my mom was alive and here, every time I get home, my mom would always ask, how was your day? Or she'll say, are you okay? Now, here's the good part that I enjoyed most. When I'm leaving the house, my mom always said, God bless you on the way. God bless you on the way. Now, when I either call mom or get home and tell my mom how much money I'd made for the day, my mom would always have this simple smile on her face. And then she would say that I always ask God to protect you guys and provide for you guys. Now, that's a lot of prayers. I miss those prayers. And you can always feel the effect of prayers when they're being uttered for you or on your behalf. So my mom would, on leaving the house, God bless you on the way. And I know my mom is always praying for us, for our safety, our protection, for provision, God to provide for us, and for God to give us continued wisdom. And that is something that we need every day, praying for ourselves and having people praying for you. That's why I ask a few of you to pray for me and the church. Very, very important. One man can't do it because the devil is out to kill, steal, and destroy. So the more people that are praying, the more he's getting combated at, right? So hear this. So then Jonah prayed. No, it's never too late to pray, but it's always better to pray early. Would you agree, class? It's never too late to pray, because a lot of people pray when they get to prison. Never prayed before, never read the Bible before, but now they're in prison. Oh, they're praying, they're reading the Bible. I mean, they're asking for a Bible to read. Why? They are now in trouble. They realize, I need the God I never had time for. So my mom on the way, when I'm leaving, God bless you on the way. When I tell my mom how much money I've made, she said, I ask God to protect you guys and provide for you guys. Now, every time I call my stepmother in St. Croix, Virgin Islands, somewhere in the conversation, she's going to say, I'm always praying for you. Now, if my stepmother doesn't say, Tamika, I just mailed you a check of $1,000 for the ministry. If she doesn't say that, or your father just sent you $10,000 for the ministry. If they don't say that, but if she says, I'm always praying for you, that's good news for me. That is better than the $10,000 or $500 check or $10,000 check. That is more important to me at this stage of my life. So you want to hear these things, and you want to make sure you're praying for yourself. Don't wait until you are cornered, trapped, or in some deep hot water for you to start praying. It's good to pray, never too late to pray. But it's good to pray before. Does it make sense? It's good to pray before. So let's look at it one more time. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the fish's belly. Why is he praying? Because he was thrown overboard. He's now in the fish's belly. He has no control of himself. He's not in control anymore. Listen, God always brings humanity to a place where that man, that woman, that boy, that girl is no longer in charge. You're out of control. It's out of your hands. You ever had something in your life that took place that is beyond your control, and only thing you can say to somebody when they ask you about the situation, you can say, it's out of my hands. That means there's nothing else you can do. You already called pastor to borrow the money, and pastor turned you down, or he didn't answer the phone, Shanae refused to give you the money. So now all you're saying, it is out of my hands. You're saying what? It's in the hands of God. I'm trusting God. I'm depending on God. I am hoping that God will deliver us or deliver me. Yes, class? So let's look at it one more time. Then, that's the word. Then, Shanae, then Jonah prayed to the Lord. Now, something can happen, will happen in our lives. Doesn't matter how bad you are, how strong you are, how much of I don't believe you are, but you're going to pray. If it gets bad enough, you will cry out. If you don't pray to God, you're going to say, oh my, you need help. Yes, class? You need help. Now, chapter 1, we see Jonah running from God. Chapter 2, then Jonah prayed. What is he doing? Running to? Oh, he has to. He's trapped. He's against, his hands are tied. His back is against the wall. He's trapped between a rock and a hard place. Now Jonah has no choice but to run to God. Run to God. Now here's the interesting thing as I look at this week. Now Jonah is praying in chapter 2. But listen carefully. Have you noticed in chapter 1, when God said to Jonah, get up, go to Nineveh, preach to that city so their lives can be changed, Jonah got up. Yes, he did. He got up. Now, God doesn't want us to obey him halfway. God said, get up, go to Nineveh. He got up, but he went trying to get to Tarshish. He was obeying God halfway. And because he was obeying God halfway and not full way or all the way or completely or totally, the guy found himself now, running from God, found himself in a whole bunch of mess. Why? He was obeying God halfway. Now, obeying God halfway is still full disobedience. Yes, class? Yes. Now, let me say this to you. Have you noticed in chapter 1, Jonah got up, didn't pray. Just got up in the morning. I try to get my niece, my nephews, in the morning time, get up a little 5-7 minutes earlier. Even if you read only 3 verses in the Bible and say a short prayer to the Lord, it will go a long way. It will go a long way. It's important because you don't want to pray when things get bad. You want to pray before. Listen, you guys go to a crazy school. Teenagers or youngsters today go to crazy schools. Why? Crazy people at these schools do crazy things. So they need to pray before they go to these crazy places. So I try to tell them, don't wait until disaster hits for you to say, I'm praying, oh Lord, keep us safe. That gunman, God, I pray. No, pray before. Listen carefully, David. God said to Jonah, get up, go to Nineveh, preach to that city. Jonah got up. Yes, he did. He got up. He looked like he was going to obey God. He got up and he's packing his things. Oh, man, he looks good. God is in heaven looking at Jonah like, I wonder if he's about to obey me or just go his own way. He's packing, yes, but I wonder if he's going to Nineveh or going someplace else. And the guy went down to the ship, to the dock, to buy a ticket. On his way to Joppa, Jonah was not praying. On his way to Joppa to purchase the ticket to go on that boat, Jonah was not praying. But when he got thrown overboard, he's praying now. He's praying now. Listen, class, and listen to those of you that are home, those of you by YouTube, listen carefully. When you met that boy, when you met that girl, started dating, you didn't pray. You didn't pray. All you talk about is how beautiful he is, how she is, how handsome he is. How beautiful the eyes are. I met a young lady one time. I'm about to preach in Trinidad. I'm about to preach up a storm in Trinidad. I was 25 years old, Shakira. And you know, 25, you know how we're looking at 25. Shanae, the pastor's wife said to the congregation, find a partner. Everybody find a partner. I was under the weather. My nose was running. I didn't want to be bothered, Tamika. Didn't want to be bothered. And lo and behold, the pastor who doesn't want to be bothered, he's the only one in the congregation who doesn't have a partner, and that young lady over there. So I had to pair up with a young lady. And the pastor's wife said, say 3 things to your partner. Tell them 3 things. So the girl said to me, I like the way how you walked in when they ushered you in with confidence. That's one. That sounds godly. That sounds good. Then secondly, she said something else she said to me. And the third thing she said to me, David, your eyes remind me of Leonardo DiCaprio. I said to myself, girl, you're lying. That's what she said to me. And that was it. I don't know if you're telling the truth. I don't know. I didn't know who was Leonardo DiCaprio. I said, really? I had to go home and ask somebody who was Leonardo DiCaprio. Found out he's the guy from the Titanic. What is my point? My point is, sometimes we meet somebody we like or in love with, we have not prayed one bit. We have not consulted God. We haven't talked to God about the situation. All we know that we saw, we like. We saw, we fell in love. We haven't prayed, David. We haven't prayed yet. We haven't prayed. We haven't laid that person before God. Listen, I learned a lesson, boy, the next time. And listen, I went to Aruba. I'm trying to tell you, then Jonah prayed. Then when? He prayed after he was in trouble. I'm showing you, don't pray after you are in trouble. It's good to pray. Your prayers still work, but it's good to pray before. It's good to pray before, during, and so I learned, because I was now in Aruba. I met this young lady in Aruba, and this pastor's friend of mine said, oh, I see good things. I see good things with you and this girl. So you know what I did? I wrote the girl's name down, found a scripture verse in my Bible that says, he that finds a wife finds a good thing. I put that scripture verse, that paper on her name right in that Bible verse. And I prayed. I said, I'm not getting trapped. I'm praying about this one. So I prayed because now I was already married and divorced. So I'm being more cautious. Come on, somebody. Say, be cautious, preacher. Be cautious. Say, be cautious, everybody. Don't be in a hurry. Be cautious. So I put her name at the Bible, in that Bible verse. He that finds a wife finds a good thing. Everybody was getting excited. My pastor friends say, I can see it in the spirit. Brother, are you seeing it in the spirit? I don't see it in the spirit yet. I'm praying in the spirit. Yes, class? So I got back to the Virgin Islands. She went back to where she's from. We're communicating. And then she's also a singer. So she's now, because we were having a concert in Aruba, and she was one of the backup singers for the person who, is doing the concert. And that's how we met. So now she's a singer. So now I'm going to test the waters. So I'm going to invite her to my church in St. Thomas for a week to sing. And I'm going to check her out as I pray. Yes? So she came. Is it okay giving my story, or should I just continue with then Jonah prayed? Can't stop now. Okay, can't stop now. So she came. I picked her from the airport, took her to the hotel. I paid for her ticket to get there because I'm being a gentleman. I paid for the hotel. I'm being a gentleman. I'm going to pay for her food. I'm being a gentleman. And I'm going to put gas in my car to give her a tour of the island. I'm being a gentleman. When she got to the hotel, I said to her, this is the first and last time I'm coming in this hotel room. The day when I put her bags in the hotel room and checked her in. Don't call me, tell me you need prayer and come to your hotel room. Don't tell me you fall sick and you need my hands to be laid on you, so come to the hotel room. Is anybody listening to Odie? Yes. Because I don't want anybody say something, because the Bible says, shun the very appearance of evil. Yes? Now, all people are going to say, a young lady in that room, and they see Pastor Odie going in and coming out. So I told her, don't expect me to come to your room. When I come to pick you up, meet me downstairs in the lobby. Yes, class? Yes. Then Jonah prayed. I'm being cautious. One day, picked her up to go to lunch, and I'm being a gentleman again. Already bought her ticket, paid for a hotel, buying her food, gas in my car to give her a tour. Now I picked her up to take her to eat. So I'm being a gentleman. We finish eating, we're going back in the car. What do I do? Open the door, because I'm being a I am being a I open the door, and I'm about to close the door. When I'm about to close the door, because I want to check her out good, because I was married So I'm going to be careful twice. Yes? Because I have pastor friends who have been married 3-4 times. That is not going to be me. So, Tamika, when I was about to close the door as a gentleman, I'm looking, I'm checking her out, and I happened to look in her ear. I saw wax can done. That was it. Disqualification. That was it. David, why are you laughing at me, man? David, you coming to see your prospective husband. Get it together. Yes. Get it, man, fix it up. When somebody's coming to your house, what do? Man, you fix your house up. You fix your house up. Yes, class? I mean, I'm going over to Tamika's house. Tamika said, Pastor's coming, Pastor's coming. Just fix that, move that, Pastor's coming. She's coming to see her prospective husband. We spoke about maybe we can go in that direction. And when I saw that, I silently was discouraged. Man, the whole Sunday morning, she has to sing at the church. She was beautiful. I know I'm still on then Jonah pray, but I'm showing you something. Because I'm saying you have to pray before. Yes, class? Yes. Sunday morning, I picked her up to go to church to sing. I picked her up, man. All her cleavage showing the promised land. I mean, really, like, you can have cleavage showing just a tidbit, but Tamika, she deliberately wanted me to see. For me, that was a turn off. But for some men, that's why they go to Hooters. Those of you who go to Hooters, let me educate you, especially you old man. That young girl ain't really like you. She likes your wallet. She likes your pocket. She likes your money. Don't let her fool you. She doesn't really like you. You're too old. But she know you have money. Don't be a fool. Cleavage showing. Got to the church. Everybody's excited for pastor. Pastor finally found a wife. Only person in that church, my secretary, Sister Catherine Alexander. When she saw that young lady stepped into the church with all her cleavage in the open air, she said to herself, Pastor doesn't like that. I haven't spoken to the lady yet, but this lady knows me very well. After church, we had a conversation. She said, Pastor, when I saw her walk in that church, I said to myself, Pastor doesn't like that. I said, you're right, girl. You're right. That was strike two. That was? Strike two. So the church had a picnic at the beach and took her to the picnic and she wanted, she wanted me and her alone to go to a secluded place. I said no. So everybody at the beach, they're giving the royal wave. Every time me and the young lady walked off, they say, Pastor, the royal wave. They were so excited. They felt Pastor's going to get married. Finally, Pastor's going to get married. The last night she's spending on that island. Everybody said the last night. The last night. I said, I'm going to pick you up. It was a full moon. It was beautiful. I said to her, I'm going to give you a tour of the island tonight because it's a full moon. And I love the moon when it's pretty. I love the moon. If I can be in the island every time when the moon is full, I would go. It's beautiful. So I told her, Tamika, I'm picking up tonight and we're going to go for a tour, going for a drive. We're going to sit and talk and that, Now, she already have 2 strikes. 2 strikes. Maybe she can pass the exam with 2 strikes. I already told her, I'm not coming to your hotel room. You meet me downstairs. I called her. When I got there, I didn't see her, Shanae. I called her. I said, I'm here. She said, come up to the room. I said, no, just meet me downstairs. I'll wait. She said, it's going to be real quick. Come on. She insisted. And that was it. Strike 3. And as you can see, I have no ring on my finger. She failed the test. Why? I prayed. I was checking her out. I was not going to be in a desperate hurry for a wife and then prayed after. Remember what I said earlier? Many people date, have not prayed about the dating. They're just excited. How beautiful, how pretty they are. I mean, haven't prayed one bit, haven't asked God about it. And then they get married, and after they got married, all hell broke loose, and now they're praying. They're praying now. They want the counselor, they want all kinds of help. Why? They didn't pray. Now, Jonah is praying. It's never too late to pray. Then Jonah prayed. Why is Jonah praying? Remember, the word then means it comes after something took place. Then. I'm going to Walmart, then I'm coming to your house. Means I'm not coming to your house first, I'm going to Walmart. Then implies something took place. Right? So he got thrown overboard, got swallowed by a fish. Inside of the fish, when his back was against the wall, then Jonah decided, I gotta humble myself. I am out of options. I am out of options. Then Jonah prayed. Why did he pray? He was out of options. Why? His back was against the wall. Why? He was trapped between a rock and a hard place. Why was Jonah now praying? He realized he was out of options. And that young lady, beautiful. But 3 strikes, I couldn't go forward. 3 strikes, I couldn't go forward. We all would love to have a wife or a husband. Yeah, everybody would love to have a partner. Everybody would love to have the companion. But don't be in a hurry and too desperate and make the wrong move. Remember, as we get older and past experience, we learn, and we don't want to get trapped and messed up again. Yes, class? Yes. Then Jonah prayed. So then Jonah prayed. I wrote some more things down here. Then Jonah prayed. Now, you don't want to be too in a hurry to do something without praying. Don't be too in a hurry. Listen, as simple as it is, let prayer be a priority. Let prayer be a priority. Very important. We have too much to lose. We have too much time to waste when things go wrong. We have too much money to waste when things go wrong. So let's be cautious. Let's include God in everything that we do. Does it make sense, class? So just don't be too much in a hurry because the car looks good, smells good, I'm going to buy it. Pray about it. Don't be too much in a hurry to get that apartment, that house, whatever it is. Pray about it first so you don't have drama after. Yes, class? Yes. So Jonah, now it's never too late to pray. But it's always better to pray before and have less issues, less complications, less drama, less frustration, less worry. Am I making sense, class? Yes. When do people pray? Some people, when they get to prison, when they get to jail, then they pray. Then they become God conscious. Never had time for God. Remember the guy in the book of Acts, the governor? He said, when I have a more convenient time, I will call for you. But right now, I have no time for God. When I have a convenient time, I will call for you. Check it out in America and around the world. Even now with the war with Hamas and Israel. Everybody's saying, let's pray. But don't you know we should have been praying before for Israel, because the Bible commanded us to pray for the peace of Israel. Yes, class? The Bible says pray for the peace of Israel. Now, so we should have been praying before this situation. So it's always good to pray, but it's better to pray that's what the Bible says. Don't cease praying. Pray always. Don't wait until something arises to pray. Pray always. Be in that habit of prayer. I have to. And you listen. You can be driving and praying. Don't feel like prayer is going to take away your time. You can be walking and praying. You can be driving and praying. You can be in the shower and praying. Prayer is talking to God. You don't have to be on your knees and, Pastor, I'm going to be late because I have to go down on my knees to pray. Get in your car, start driving, and start praying. Prayer is simple. Talking to God. You don't kneel down when you're talking to me, don't you? When you call me, Tamika, do you say, oh, Pastor's on the phone? Pastor's on the phone. We'll kneel down. No. So God will understand if you don't kneel down. The most important thing is you are communicating with God. Okay? Then Jonah prayed. Now, hear this. When he bought the ticket to go down, when he went down to Joppa, bought the ticket to go to Tarshish, he was not praying about, Lord, should I buy this ticket? He didn't pray. He didn't pray. And you see, he got in trouble because he didn't pray. That's why I said, don't be too much in a hurry to do anything that you don't pray about. He didn't pray. Now, listen to this. When the boat was in the midst of turbulence and the storm came and the men were scared, the sailors were scared, what was Jonah doing? What was Jonah doing? Jonah was he praying? Or the guy was sleep. The guy was not praying, David. The storm is raging, as we are going to have storms in our lives. Different types of storms. It doesn't have to be a hurricane. It can be a financial storm. It can be a marital storm. It can be our children are giving us a run for our money. All kinds of storms. We're having hell on the job with coworkers. It's a storm. Health issues can be a storm. David right now is going through a storm with a stroke. It's a storm. Tamika, this guy, the storm is raging. Their lives are at risk. But Jonah was not praying. What was Jonah? What was the man of God doing? What was the prophet doing? The prophet was sleeping, not praying. But God knows how to get us to pray. God knows how to get America to pray. God knows how to get Canada to pray. God knows how to get Britain to pray. God knows how to get the Caribbean islands to pray. They just had a hurricane, not a hurricane, a 5-point-something earthquake in Jamaica. And you can see the people, everybody running and saying, oh, people are praying. People, I've never seen so many Jamaicans pray yet. God knows how to get us to pray. Don't wait until disaster strikes to pray. Be in an attitude of prayer every day. Why? You're talking to our Creator. Then Jonah prayed. Don't wait until our children go to jail or prison. Pray before. Pray, Lord, keep them. You know why I never went to prison or jail? Do you know why my sister and my 2 brothers never went to jail? Now we still have time. We're still on earth. Because people can become crazy. Tamika, as long as you're living, you stand a chance of doing something dumb before you die. That's why we have to pray, God, keep us. So I have to pray for myself, pray for my sister, pray for my two brothers, that we don't do anything dumb to go to jail. Right? But you know why I believe we never went to these places, that place? Our mom prayed, keep us. God, keep my 4 children out of trouble. Lord, keep them not to go to jail or prison or do something dumb. Mother's prayer. So same for your children, your grandchildren, you have to pray for them. Pray for them. Even if they're not praying for themselves, you have to pray for them. Then Jonah prayed. Jonah didn't pray when the storm was raging. Jonah didn't pray. Jonah was sleeping. When they're about to throw Jonah overboard, Jonah was at the edge of this boat, and there's nowhere it says Jonah was praying, Lord, I'm sorry. The guy said, throw me overboard. The guy didn't pray, Jeffrey. The guy said, throw me overboard. There's nowhere I see a prayer, Jonah saying, you know what, man, I'm coming to the end of myself. I'm running out of options. They're about to throw me over. Let me just get down in prayer. When you see things are about to turn sour and bad, we should even pray more. This guy didn't do that. This guy was saying, throw me over. And when he got thrown over, got swallowed by the fish, inside of the fish's belly, when you realize, I'm out of options. I came to the end of my rope. My back is against the wall. I'm trapped between a rock and a hard place. The Bible says, then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the fish's belly. And he said, I cried out to the Lord because of my affliction, and he answered me. That means we can pray anywhere, anytime, any place. I said earlier, in your shower, driving, walking, running, you can pray. Because Jonah's prayer was heard from heaven, from the fish's belly. Look at verse 3. Verse 2, out of Sheol, out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. Verse 3, for you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the floods surrounded me, and all your billows and your waves passed over me. You know what that was? Jonah realized this was the judgment of God on him for his disobedience. He was not arguing with God. He realized this is the judgment of God on me, on him, for his disobedience. Disobedience costs. Very expensive. For him. I mean, you know, sometimes people say when they get to heaven, they want to see Moses, they want to see Elijah, they want to see that person, they want to see that person. I want to talk to Jonah. I want to have lunch with Jonah by the riverbanks. I mean, I want him to tell me how was that experience for 3 days in that fish hotel. I mean, that's crazy. And alive. Now, some theologians believe that he died inside of the fish's belly. Some theologians believe that Jonah died inside the fish's belly. And some don't believe he died. I don't believe he died. I believe he was awake. I believe he was conscious. Now, look at the next verse. So verse 3, he admit that God was judging him because of his disobedience. Now, remember our topic is reaching our cities one way or the other. So God was so serious about the people in Nineveh. Doesn't matter how wicked they were, how bad they were. God wanted to reach them, and God was going to the extreme, to the point of having a fish swallow this guy so he can get this guy's attention to say, man, I want you to go my way, not your way. The only time in the Bible God says my way or the highway is Jonah. Look at the next verse, verse 5. The waters surrounded me, even to my soul. You see this phrase, even to my soul? It means physically and spiritually. He said the waters cover me even to my soul, spiritually and physically. He said, man, I was out of it. I was out of it. The waters surrounded me even to my soul. The deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. Verse 6, I went down to the moorings of the mountains. That means he's saying, I found myself at the bottom of the ocean, out of ocean. The earth with its bars closed behind me forever. Yet you have brought up my life from the pit, O Lord, my God. Now hear this carefully. You see what Jonah just said in verse 6? He was thanking God. When he was swallowed by the fish was his deliverance. His fish was his deliverance. Had the fish not swallowed him and protected him, he would have drowned. He would have. You remember those rich men who went down to see the rusty old Titanic that have been there for how many years? A lot of years, not bothering anybody. But they decided they have so much money. You couldn't bring that money over here at Embassy and help us get a building, man? And pay for some TV for 2 years for us in advance? You're going to take that money to go down to see a rusty old thing that has been sitting there for all these years. Had I asked one of those guys for $250,000, they would have told me, go believe God. Those guys paid to go down to see the Titanic. Now, here's my point. They paid to go to see the vehicle that they were going down in to see the Titanic. It had to be made a certain way, because the deeper in the ocean you go, the more dangerous it is, the more powerful it is, the more strong it is. So they had to have a kind of vehicle to go that depth. Are you following me? Those men who decide to go to the moon, go to outer space, they just can't just get in the space shuttle and just put on the regular clothes and go. They have to have a space suit, because it's a different world out there. Okay? I know when, the Russians were the first to say they went out of space. Do you remember that? And Russians, it's an atheist country. They don't believe in God. So when the Russians went out of space, they said they went so far and they wanted to come back and brag and boast of the atheist country and belief that there's no God. They came back and they said, we didn't see God. We went out so far, we didn't see God. And an old man responded and said, why didn't you take off your spacesuit out there? You'd have seen God. You didn't see God. Why didn't you take off your spacesuit? You would have seen God. You'd have seen him. You'd have cried out to him. Amen, somebody. Now, so they had to have had a special vehicle to go that deep. But those men, something that said the vehicle was not properly equipped for the depth of the ocean. And all those who went down, they claimed the thing exploded, or imploded, I should say, imploded. Implode because of the pressure on the outside was so strong and was too much. Imploded and killed those guys. One man said these people didn't even know what happened to them. It happened so fast. They didn't even know they died. It happened so fast. And these people who were giving the press briefing The best description of the ocean, one guy said, he said, the ocean is good, but it's an unforgiving environment. David, I'm jealous. Anybody who claim they're expert swimmers and they're divers and God bless you. I was born for land. I was born for land. You don't see any fins. And are you hearing me? You don't see any fins. I don't have a special lungs for the sea. I don't jealous anybody who brag about their swimming expertise in the ocean. I mean, I flex my muscles in a pool because I know the limitations in a pool. But the ocean is an unforgiving environment, one man said. And he's so right. Young man, my neighbor in Nevis, brother's best friend, Cleveland best friend, like a son to my mom. We're neighbors, just a fence separated our house. We can stand at my house and we can just talk from his house. He can stand at his door and we can talk. Good swimmer, good diver. He watched my mom on video in the casket. 7 months later, he didn't know he was going to be in a casket. He put a post on Facebook. He said, so many people are dying around me. I wonder sometimes if I'm next. And a couple months later, went out to sea with somebody else. One guy came back. He never came back. They found him maybe a week later, a couple of days later. He couldn't even have a viewing because he'd been in the ocean for so long. 24, how old is it? 31, 30, something like that. Good swimmer, good diver. But the ocean doesn't care how good you are. It's an unforgiving and challenging environment. And that's why I don't play with it. I respect it. And Jonah said, I was way down here. Look what Jonah says in verse 6. I went down to the moorings of the mountains, the earth with its bars closed behind me forever. Yet you have brought me up brought up my life from the pit. Oh Lord, my God. He was giving God thanks for allowing him not to drown. He was actually thanking God for the fish. The fish swallowed me, but he was my hope. Do you know some people, had you not got me in trouble, you'd have continued on the wrong path until you wreck yourself. But that trouble had to slow you down and save your life. Some people had to have gone to prison. If not, they would have wrecked their lives. Prison was their only hope. Something tragic in our lives have caused us to slow down, take an evaluation or inventory of our lives, and had that thing. Listen, my mom's death caused me to look at death and life completely different. I listened to a preacher this morning, said he and his wife, they are believing for 120 years. I said, you can keep on. They're believing to live for 120 years. I don't say those crazy, stupid things anymore. I look at life totally different now. How do I look at life now, Tamika? One day at a time. I take it one day at a time. My mom's death caused me to have a different perspective on life and death. And what is the most valuable thing in life is my soul and living for God. That's more important than anything else. Not acquiring materialistic things to brag and to boast, but to live for God. Look at Jonah. Look at Jonah as we close. Verse 7. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer went up to you into your holy temple. See what the guy said? When my soul fainted within me, I ran out of options. I came to the end of myself. I was between a rock and a hard place. I was sandwiched between difficulties. And he said, what did I do? He said, look what he said. He said, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer went up to you, meaning to God, into your holy temple. Now, let's close on this. Look at this, Tamika. Verse 7, the guy said, when my soul fainted within me. What caused him to pray again? What caused him to pray? His soul was not doing well. And what did he do? He prayed. He's not running anymore. He's running to God now. In chapter 1, he's running from God. Chapter 2 is all about running. Man, I want America to run to God. I want the Caribbean islands to run to God. I want Canada, Britain, Africa. I want Australia to run to God. I want our young generation to run to God. This guy, he realized makes no sense to keep running from God or against God. It's better to run to God and better to run with God. So Jonah, in verse 7, when his soul fainted, he said, I remembered the Lord. When do people remember God? When do people remember there is a church on every church and on every street corner? When do people remember the value of prayer and reading the Bible? When tragedy hits America. When tragedy hits, everybody knows where the church is on the street corner. They find the Bible and they dust it off. Start reading. They start calling every prayer line, every church prayer line. Pray for me and my family. My son got incarcerated. Pray. My husband is acting a fool. Pray that he get his mind together. Pray. Jonah said, verse 7, when my soul fainted within me, Shanae, he said, I remembered, I remembered the politicians. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered I can call on the president. Oh, I know what to do. When my soul fainted within me, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make an appointment to see the psychologist, or the psychiatrist, or the counselor. He didn't do that. He said, I remembered. He didn't say, I remembered the psychologist. He didn't say, I remember the psychiatrist. He didn't say, I remember the counselor. When my soul fainted, Tamika, he said, I remembered the Lord. He's still God's man. In rebellion, but he's still God's man. He's still the man of God. He's still a prophet. I never read anywhere in Jonah where God says, you're no longer a prophet of God. Still a prophet, a rebellious prophet, a rebel prophet, on the run prophet. He says, when my soul fainted, Shanae, when your money acting funny, remember God. When your children acting a fool, remember God. When your coworkers are acting a clown, remember God. When things are not looking good, remember God. Jonah says, when my soul fainted, I remembered God. And when you remember God, you know what you have to do. Call on him. Cry to him. And he will hear you, and he will rescue you, and he will come to your aid. And he said, my prayer went up to him. Look at verse 8 as we close on verse 8. Those who regard worthless idols forsake their own mercy, but I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay what I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. Verse 10, so the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. You see what Jonah says in verse 8? Those who regard worthless idols forsake their mercy, forsake their own mercy. You know what mercy is? Mercy is when God gives us a second chance, overlook our faults. Mercy is when God says, I'm going to do something for you when you don't even deserve it. Mercy here is when God is a form of God condescending love toward us when we don't even deserve it. It's God's condescending love. You know, back in the Old Testament, what mercy was in the Old Testament was, you know, the Ark of the Covenant. In the Ark of the Covenant, you had something called the mercy seat, where God dwelt back in the Old Testament. And that's where they could have gotten the mercy of God shown to them. In the New Testament now, Shanae, it's no longer the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat where God dwells. But in the New Testament, it embodied Jesus. Jesus is our Ark of the Covenant now. We run to him. And here, Jonah says in verse 8, those who regard worthless idols forsake their own mercy. If you look to idols, you look to anything else but God, you can't have mercy bestowed on you. Verse 9, but I will sacrifice to you. Jonah says, no, I'm not going to look to idols. I mean, here you're seeing the man is changing. From chapter 1, running from God, chapter 2, running to God, and in running to God, he's changing. He's now getting his act together. He says, I will sacrifice to you with a voice of thanksgiving. What is he saying? Thank you for sending that fish to swallow me when I was thrown overboard. I thank you because I couldn't deal with the current where I was thrown, the ocean. I couldn't contend with that unforgiving environment. So I thank you for that fish that swallowed me. He said, with the voice of thanksgiving, I will pay what I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. And look at the last verse. So the Lord spoke to the fish. After God realized he's getting his act together. Now all of this is inside the belly of the fish. The guy is having church all by himself. Inside of the belly of the fish, Jeffrey, this guy is having church. And when the Lord realized he got his act together, he has a change of heart, change of mind, God spoke to the fish. And the Lord spoke to the fish, and it vomited Jonah onto dry land. I have to include this. What did the Lord do? What did the Lord just do in verse 10? The Lord did what? Spoke to the fish, and the fish vomited Jonah on dry land. I read this verse, never saw it in preparation for this teaching for so many months ago, until 2 days ago. I was reading over this, and I looked at the last verse, David. It says, the Lord spoke to, and it struck me, what kind of conversation God had with the fish? How did God? I was somewhere yesterday and I saw a young man with a dog walking the dog, and he had to go inside a building. And I was sitting in my car and I was watching all this drama. Young man, maybe 12, 13, had a big old burly dog. And he was going inside a building. And he pulled out his key card to get in the building, probably his apartment or whatever. And he had this big old burly dog. And I was in my car, and the little boy said to the dog, sit. And the dog went down. I just sat. And I said to myself, does the dog really understand English? I wonder at times. It struck me yesterday. Does the dog really understands English, or he just heard a commanding voice and he just respond by being humble? And the dog just sat. And the dog didn't move. It struck me. What kind of conversation God had with the fish? You ever seen people interact with the dogs? And sometimes they don't have to say a word to the dog. They just look at the dog. And the dog dives, sit down, or the dog just lap its tail. There's eye contact with the dog. If my nephews act a fool at the house, sometimes I don't have to say a word. I just give eye contact. And maybe, I don't know if they interpret what that eye contact means, but they change their ways. They do something different. So that means, hear me carefully, they're doing something they should not do or should have done better or differently, but because of my eye contact with them, it communicated something to them and they do things differently. So that is some kind of communication that they understand, right? So when God spoke to the fish, I wonder if God said, hey, fish, vomit him out. Maybe God just looked at the fish. Maybe God spoke to the fish mind to mind. Did God verbally said something? I don't know. Did God just nudge the fish somehow? But God communicated to the fish. And the fish was in compliance, obedience. But when God spoke to Jonah first, the guy was not compliant. The guy was not obedient. But it's amazing how when God spoke to the fish, remember, God had to speak to Jonah 2 times to get him to do what he wanted him to do. God spoke to the fish one time. The little boy said to the dog, sit. The dog sat. The dog sat down. Sometimes I have to say it over and over. You have to say it over and over to your children or your grandchildren or your co-workers or your employees over and over. I have to say it to my nephew, keep your eyes on me all the time. Over and over. I mean, the dog sat. God spoke to the fish once, and the fish responded. God had to say to Jonah twice, get up, go to Nineveh. The second time, he didn't buy a ticket to go someplace else. He got a ticket to go to Nineveh. Because he learned a lesson in chapter 2 and chapter 1. He learned the lesson the hard way. He's saying, not this time. Not this time. That's why I said to myself, I'm not in a rush to get married because of desperation. Because it's a life journey. I'm being patient. I'm praying. And I'm taking my time. Amen?